difficult time, but we're all trying to get through it the best we can. Hopefully to keep ourselves healthy and well and moving forward. This week's Torah portion, interestingly enough, is called Tzav, Tzav, which in Hebrew means command. Command. And for those, remember, if you looked at last week's Torah portion, this beginning of Leviticus or this beginning of Vayikra is a lot to do with, I don't know, Rabbi just told me he can't click in, so we will do it without the rabbi. Anyway, so this is a lot about what seemingly is not important to us as modern Jews, because it's going through all the rituals of the temple sacrifices, what they mean, what kind of animals and things of that sort. So this second portion of Vayikra or Leviticus continues in that same vein. It continues with so much of this that deals with things that are seemingly irrelevant to us today. But I'm going to show you how maybe not after we think about it, there still is something that we can learn and something that we can take away from what seems like this very dated Torah portion that really isn't important to us anymore. So I'm going to do the blessing. There is a blessing that we say before we study Torah, so I'm going to start with that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav la'asok b'divrei Torah, which means, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with the words of Torah. So, once again, we may see this particular Torah portion as being nothing more than a recounting of the ancient sacrifices and the ancient rituals that really seem pretty far removed and pretty far away from our lives as contemporary Reformed Jews. But the way we pray in our modern synagogues, rather than the way that they offered worship in the ancient temple, was very different. But still, there are some important ideas that we can carry away from this Torah portion if we take some time to think about it in maybe some broader, bigger terms. God is very precise in this Torah portion in explaining to Moses the different sacrifices, the different offerings that are required. He explains when they are required. He explains what's appropriate to sacrifice at what time, what they can eat, what they cannot eat, because some has to be just offered up without being consumed, who can eat and who cannot eat of each of the particular offerings, the particular sacrifices. And quite honestly, if you sit down and read this Torah portion through, it goes on and on, detail after detail. Your mind starts to wander because it's seeming just this endless detail. Your eyes start to glaze over, and pretty soon you start mentally planning what you're going to do with the rest of your day. But if we take a closer look at what God is commanding here, he's commanding Moses and the priests of that time period, of the temple period, in ritual. Ritual. And ritual, if you look it up in the dictionary, ritual can be defined as a religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. Really good. That sounds good. Sounds great. And don't we still today follow ritual in our practice of modern Judaism? For example, we light candles and we recite a blessing on Friday to welcome the Shabbat. We say blessings over wine. We say a blessing over challah. When it comes to Hanukkah, we light candles for 8 consecutive nights in a prescribed order, and we recite the appropriate prayers and blessings as we do that action. We follow an order of service for Passover that is clearly spelled out in the Haggadah. We arrange specific items on our Seder plate that will decorate our holiday table. And every Saturday, if we come to synagogue services, we follow certain rituals that tell us how to remove the Torah from the ark, that we undress the Torah, we have blessings, and then we read from the Torah. So ritual is still very clearly part of our practice of Judaism. It's just merely evolved. It has changed over the thousands of years of our Jewish history. If we were to take any of the rituals that we love and that we are comfortable with away, I think we'd all feel a sense of loss if those things were just sort of gone. I'd venture a guess too that probably a lot of us, if we're honest with ourselves, have incorporated certain rituals into our everyday lives, our secular everyday lives. We may brand them or call them routines, but they still are, in a sense, a ritual. Some of you may have a certain order, the way you do things in the morning, when you brush your teeth, how you have your coffee, etc. And to make this as up to date as I possibly can, I'm certain that right now, many of us are adapting some new rituals into our daily lives as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are in, because we want to do whatever we can to keep ourselves and our loved ones strong and healthy. Are we as precise? Are we as exacting as the rituals are described by God to Moses in the Torah? Maybe not, and probably not. But nonetheless, the rituals are still with us. We do perform them, and they connect us to a people in a community of Jews all around the world. If we delve a little further into this Torah portion, we see that some of the specific offerings that are written about, one specifically called a sham, and that particular offering was prescribed to help absolve someone of the guilt of having committed some form of wrongdoing, some kind of what we might call a sin. We all know that guilt can be a really powerful emotion. It has the ability to eat away at us. It can become even all-consuming if it affects our emotional, mental, and even our physical health. We can't let it fester away. We can't let it eat away at us unchecked. In the days of the temple, going back early in our history, they made an offering in public to help ease the guilt feelings of those who had done something wrong. And that way that person could make him or herself right with God once again. At various times in history, if you think back, and whether this is right or wrong, people would deal with guilt in a sort of public way. Remember learning about the Puritans, and they put the people in the stocks, and people would walk by and know that they had done something wrong? And if you remember back to your American literature class, and if you ever read the story of the Scarlet Letter written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, you'll remember Hester Prynne, who was condemned to wear a scarlet A on her dress for having committed the sin of adultery, and everybody would know it every time they looked at her in the novel The Scarlet Letter. Today, as modern forward-thinking Jews, prayer has replaced animal and the agricultural sacrifices in our synagogue liturgy. Our easing of guilt has become something more private. We really don't do it so much in public. We do it inwardly. Yes, we do pray the Ashamnu publicly in our Yom Kippur liturgy, and we pray it together as a community, and all the words of the Ashamnu are in the plural, so it's all of us. But there's nothing tangible. There's nothing to see or to witness, such as the smoke rising from the altar, the smoke that was supposed to be pleasing to God. We are left kind of on our own to deal with our guilt and its impact on each one of us by ourselves. Maybe here, I'm going to take some words from a very famous rabbi, and I'm sure you've heard of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, a conservative rabbi who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the civil rights movement. And he found a way that we can actually make something public to kind of ease our guilt. And I'm quoting him now when he said that what we need to do is mobilize our heart, our intelligence, and our wealth for the purpose of love and justice. So if we see and we are aware of the many number of problems in our local communities and in the world at large, and all we do is say, oh, well, so sad, too bad, and we feel guilty that these things are happening, but we don't do anything to help rectify them, to solve them, then we allow guilt to win. However, if we're motivated by our guilt towards acts of justice, fairness, and love, then we are now moving away from those isolated feelings of guilt to outward actions to make right what we see as something wrong. It becomes a form of tikkun olam, repair the world. In that way, we have a realistic and tangible outward action that helps us to overcome the power of guilt. Finally, one last thing in this Torah portion tells us that there's an offering of thanksgiving. In chapter 7, verse 11, the Torah states that this offering or this sacrifice of thanksgiving, quote, one may offer to the Lord. I want you to take careful note of the verb that is used here. The verb is may. It's not a must. It's not a requirement. It is not an obligation. It is a sacrifice that may be offered. And somehow this verb seems to suggest that this particular sacrifice is somehow of lesser importance than the other ones. And I'm going to be honest, that's kind of puzzling to me. It would seem that offering thanks to God should be commanded of us, but it's not. So let's stop to think about this notion of emotion or motivation behind giving thanks or being thankful. Being thankful or giving thanks should be something that comes out of sincerity. It should be valid and heartfelt. If thanks comes out of duty or obligation rather than from the heart, does it really mean anything? Giving thanks to God should, or at least it would seem, to be a prayer that we eagerly want to say, not may say, but want to say. Or in the case of our ancient ancestors, a sacrifice that they eagerly wanted to offer. But let's think back to our childhoods for a moment. Maybe think back to a special birthday that you had, or even to your bar or your bat mitzvah, or maybe to your high school graduation. People would come and they would remember you and honor you, and they celebrated with you. And they were very proud of you and your achievement. And very likely they showered you with gifts because this was your day. It was all yours. Once it was over, once it was behind you, perhaps mom and dad reminded you that you needed to write and send thank you notes to all those family and friends who had remembered you. You had received all the gifts, great, but now there was work to be done. And you may have in your childhood or teenage mind felt obligated to write those thank you notes. It was a chore and it was a task. And after all, mom said so, so you had to do it. We look back now with all of our years of adult wisdom, and we realize that we should have willingly and joyfully written those notes. And so it is the same with God. God does not command us, nor does God obligate us to offer thanks. We may do it if the Spirit so moves us, but it seems that God prefers that our thanks would come from sincere motivation and from our hearts. And when we look around and realize how fortunate many of us are, we should gladly and willingly offer God our thanks. We know that when we are troubled or when we are facing difficult times, we often remember and we turn to God for solace, for help, and for guidance. Let us not then forget to turn to God and offer God thanks once we are successfully through those life challenges. So once again, we face a Torah portion that is, at least at first glance, seemingly a bit dated and a bit irrelevant to our modern way of thinking and to our modern way of practicing Judaism. But upon more careful study, we realize that it really does have much that it still can teach us, and it can still guide us as we move through our lives. So that's my lesson from this particular Torah portion. I'm going to unmute and let's do a little discussion, maybe share some ideas, or I had some questions. I don't know if any of you found them or have them.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's unmuted now. You can hear me, I can hear you.
What was that one item about if you had shame, you'd have to walk around with a sock? What was that?
No, the Puritans, if you remember the picture, they'd be in those wooden things with their heads through the wood and their arms, and they'd be displayed in the public square, and people could walk by and spit on them.
Why? Because name something that it might have done that would have happened.
If they were caught stealing, for example.
Oh, that's a big deal.
Well, it is a big deal, but that was the way they had to appease their guilt publicly, so
So
everybody knew
what is that thing called?
they were called the
Stock.
stocks. The stocks.
STOCK,
Spell
stock.
Yes.
that.
Yep.
Oh, stock, like soup stock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Same spelling, same
Oh,
word. Yeah.
I'm glad you almost were done because I was starting to get tired.
So anybody have any just general comments, something they like to share, feel free to speak up.
How come we don't turn to God that much now, years ago they did?
You think we don't?
I don't think we do. No,
You don't?
I think it's just a given that God is there watching us, and I think there are people that ask for a lot of things from God, but then there's a lot that feel it's going to happen no matter what.
They don't really feel that God can intervene, so whatever happens, happens.
Did
I don't
you
know. I
hear
still
me?
give thanks to God if I could have, like in a car accident, I don't get hurt, and you want to do a Shekiano and just be thankful, and you realize God is there, and He's looking out for you.
Right. But that's a different that's a tough situation. I'm talking about it every single day, a daily thing. Every day people don't walk around, oh, I'm so thankful God has spared me today and let me live another day. I don't think people say that on a daily basis.
Well, I don't think we say it out loud, but I'm pretty sure I say it to myself. And every day
Do
I
you
thank God
really?
for getting up in the morning and
Oh,
having a good
really?
day.
You do say that?
Yes.
Well, is it
Oh, that's
something that at least you think it mentally in your mind, you're feeling
Yeah.
grateful to God for having given you another day?
right. I do believe that. And anytime anything bad happens, we always say, "Oh, thank God, I'm okay," and stuff. But I'm
Right.
talking about just daily walking, just a daily routine on a daily basis. I don't know if enough people say that. Maybe if everybody said that, would it be okay?
Well, I think we probably should all try to be more aware of it than we are. I think so much in life, not just when it comes to thanking God, we take things for granted. So many.
I know. I agree. That's what I was talking about.
And I think right now, since we're in this rather interesting period where, we're in my mind, and I've talked, and Jill and I have talked, we look at it as warfare. We're kind of in a situation of warfare right now. But the enemy is something that we can't see. If it's a traditional war, we have an enemy we can see, and we work toward defeating that
Like like
enemy.
like bullets.
Right.
This was a World War III, like World War II. You could
But
see.
we can't see this
Right.
enemy. We know it's a virus. We know it's out there, but we can't. If all of a sudden they said, "Oh, COVID-19 is purple," so you'd look around for the purple. Okay, oh, it's over there.
Right.
Stay
Right.
away.
You can't see it.
No, no. And the scary thing is some of us, they are asymptomatic. They may be carriers, but we don't know they're carriers.
I think all of us are too young to been around during the polio or I don't know about the swine flu N1S something like that,
Right. Right.
N1S1. Right. I mean, I wasn't around during polio, but I knew about it obviously, and but this is very bad.
Well, I mean, the fact that they have called it a pandemic indicates the seriousness of what we are facing.
But the
Um,
trouble is, people aren't taking it. The kids are not taking it seriously. They're still going to the beaches. They're still going to spring break, and they're coming back carriers to other people.
I can't believe that so many people cannot believe that this is airborne and this is very, very serious. Everyone has to wear a mask wherever they go. I mean, this is a very, very this is beyond God, unfortunately.
but every day when you realize that you're healthy, and your loved ones are healthy, I guess that's a point where maybe we should stop and take a moment to thank God that, okay, I'm making my way through it.
Absolutely.
And we're facing difficulties. Let's
I
face it,
agree.
we're all used to being able to get up and go where we want when we want. We're all used to not thinking twice about, oh, I need to make a run to the store, or I need to go to the drugstore, or even the decisions about going to services at the synagogue. I mean, it was never we can't go. It's like you can think, oh, I'd like to go this Saturday, so I think I'll go to synagogue. Well, we don't have that option right now.
No.
We can't get up on Saturday morning and think, oh, I think I'd feel good if I went to services today. So we're facing a different kind of time period.
Terry's awfully quiet.
Terry's quiet.
Just listening. I agree.
Terry's awfully quiet.
Let's talk for a
Terry
minute
agrees.
about ritual. How many of you have certain rituals that that are important to you? I mean, I don't know if you light candles on Friday night at home, or and do challah and wine Friday.
Every Friday night.
You do?
Every Friday night, that's one of my rituals. And if I can't go to sin, it was this
Go
this
ahead.
past Saturday was my sister's yahrzeit.
Oh, right.
So I did it at home. We had the little light,
Sure.
and I did the prayer over that,
Sure.
which I
Right.
know by heart already.
Yes. I mean, what does ritual do for us? What does it offer us? I mean,
It's stability, keeps us going, keeps us in a, makes us want to, we're doing the right thing. We're doing what we are supposed to do. Keeps us on track,
right.
more or less.
It's part of our spirit. It's part of our being. It's part of our being of who we are. We believe in Jewish traditions, and we believe in Jewish, whether it be a yahrzeit, lighting Friday night candles. This is part of who we are.
Right. It's a connection to many years of history. And what I
Yes.
find interesting is when you think about, throughout the world on a Friday night, there are people all over the world who are lighting Shabbat candles.
Right.
And you're doing it wherever you are in your home, but people halfway around the world who are Jewish are lighting Shabbat candles when it's, the time frame gets to them. And I think that's a kind of, when you stop to think about it, it's a pretty powerful connection that we have as Jews, that we all have this ritual of lighting Shabbat candles on a Friday evening.
Yes.
I mean, how would it feel if all of a sudden your rituals were taken away from you?
Very, very prisoned. I would
Yeah.
feel like somebody might as well just tie my hands and put tape over my mouth, although that wouldn't be a bad idea. But I mean, but sorry about that. But no, I mean, if you take away talking for me and rituals and washing my hands and daily hygiene, I would go crazy probably.
So ritual does kind of ground us, into what
The
we
only
do
time I
daily.
could think of when I wasn't able to brush my teeth, and if you're incapacitated, if you're in a hospital or something like that, but that's part of, showering, and so are Jewish rituals. It's part of who we are. It's part of how we were raised.
Right. Okay.
It's what we know today. It's what we know now is what's important. Not so much anything else, but the now is what's important.
And there's comfort in ritual.
Yes.
Because that's what I think. I think some of ritual is a level of comfort that we have. I mean, think of the rituals at the different holidays. I mean, even the rituals that we have, in terms of loss in mourning, our period of mourning, those rituals provide us with some sense of comfort, some sense of stability, being able to say Kaddish, to have a Shiva minyan, that comes from that. So, I think we have to look at it that way as well.
We're grateful that we're able to do that physically and mentally, that we are able to do that, thanks to God, that we have that capabilities of able to do that.
Correct. AJ, you have a hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it was a perfect lead in, but the reason I was late is the AA had a funeral, and we were part of a virtual minion at 1:00, so they could say caught it.
Who's
Right.
on the phone talking?
So AJ Hazeman.
Oh, okay. So we just can't see you.
I could see
I
him.
got my camera on.
I could see him.
I can't see you.
I could
But
see him.
anyway, we had a virtual minion, so the family was able to say Kaddish,
Right.
So that just goes along with our ritual. Even though we're locked down, we can still keep some semblance of the ritual.
And I think that's really kind of really a great thing that we can still have that ritual in spite of the situation we're facing. You could be on a Zoom or whatever like this, so that people could still have the comfort of having the ability to say Kaddish and mourn the way that we are
Absolutely.
used to
That's
doing.
exactly what we did.
Right,
That we had over 10 people on the call,
right,
and then one person had it on Rabbi Hankin. So
right.
we were able to, and while he recited Kaddish, we were able to recite Kaddish and say the Amains in the
Oh,
proper order.
that's so nice.
Well, I
Oh,
think it
Important
helped the
this
family.
is.
oh, it definitely. I think it's very comforting to a family to know that they were still able to
Yes.
do that with the rabbi, at a time when it's a very necessary thing.
Right.
There was a funeral in Athens, Georgia. It wasn't a Jewish funeral, but it was a funeral, and everybody decided they had to go. And because of that, had a very big outbreak. Not Athens, Albany, sorry, Georgia. There was a
Right.
very big outbreak of
Right.
the virus there because of it. If they
No,
had done a
there's social,
virtual, it would have been so much safer.
well, there's religious duty and then there's social responsibility. And in this case, and in today's time, with all the technology we've got, it makes it possible for us to do both.
I
Exactly.
agree. And I think it's interesting because I mean, we're so caught up in all the news of everything that's going on right now. But I saw that they've exempted, at least I don't know about here, but in Florida, the governor of Florida has exempted the religious communities. They can still meet and worship and gather,
That's crazy.
which doesn't seem like a really good idea. But what I found interesting was that the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Miami and the Roman Catholic churches in Miami said, we're not doing it. He has actually told them, you will not be having, religious services on Easter Sunday, which never happens. I mean, it's the very important Christian holiday, but he realizes that there's, like you said, AJ, social responsibility. We can stream services into your house so you can still have some semblance of the ritual of the service. But he felt like, as the Archbishop, it would be irresponsible of him to allow each individual, congregation to have a service. So we do this because we cannot be together in the same room, in the same place. I mean, I'm looking forward to the day when we can be back. We have a beautiful sanctuary, and I'm looking forward to the day when we can be doing our ritual in our beautiful sanctuary, hopefully sooner than later.
I'll second.
Right, but we can't right now, so we do the
I'll
best we
second
can.
that.
Rabbi is doing a service on Saturday, that he is streaming, so people can still, if they want to tune in, they want to hear something from him about the Torah, and at least we have that. I mean,
Well, about a week or 2 weeks ago, my son in New York said, "Mom, what are we going to do for Passover?" So he put together a Zoom invitation for my son in up by the St. Lawrence River, New York, my son in Edgewater, New Jersey, and my son Philip in Manhattan. And we're all going to Zoom. We're all going to sit. The youngest is going to do the 4 questions, and we're all going to partake. And we're going to do the first night. And the second night, Rabbi is going to do it with his wife and children for all of us. So I think this idea of Zooming for Passover, and even though you're doing it at home, it's nice to be able to share it with your loved ones. First night, second night, all the time during the whole 8 days is wonderful.
Right. Yeah, and it is. I mean, the fact that you're going to have a Zoom family, to get together,
Right.
and at least you have that. The technology allows us to do that. I thought it was interesting too, because we know, the difference between Reform Judaism and Orthodoxy in terms of their use of electricity and, modern conveniences during the holidays or on Shabbat. But I actually read something from an Orthodox rabbi. I get so much email from different Jewish sites, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was an Orthodox rabbi, and he has said, if you need to use the computer with the Zoom to be with your family on,
absolutely.
He said the only thing he said was turn it on before sundown. He said turn the computer on before sundown. But
how can you do that?
You just turn it on and let it go. I mean,
no, but the Zoom is at a certain time.
I think if you have the upgraded Zoom, you can go pretty much as long as you want. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, there's 3 different levels of Zoom. There's a basic, a middle, and a higher level. I think if you have the highest level, it does cost something. I
But
think
this is it's so strange that you should say this, because Passover is such a family togetherness with people and
right,
and strangers and everything that we invite, that this is going to be very lonely, that I'm so grateful for the person who invented the Zoom.
right. Yeah, I mean, seriously, and I think a lot of people and a lot of companies as well, I mean, in the business world have realized that there is this technology that can keep their people coordinated, keep them
Mhm.
together, and we're going to be using it for an important holiday. I would imagine that many of our Christian friends will be doing something similar for Easter.
Right.
Absolutely. Easter, sure.
Right.
Well, each religion. I saw a article yesterday, I guess. One guy has started a drive-in church where he bought where they brought in um, a, a scissor lift, and they're
Mhm.
on top of it, and then everybody stays in their cars, so they
Oh,
social isolate. So that's
Oh,
just one
that's
other way of
nice.
skinning one other way of skinning the cat.
Yeah, one
exactly.
Yes.
And
church is doing it in their parking lot.
who
Everybody
is
stays in their cars.
who
I
is?
went
What?
to church that way.
Where's that
I
flow?
didn't hear. What did
I think
Flo
it's
say?
it's on 17 going towards Richmond Hill. There's a church there it's a Methodist church.
And what are they
That's
doing?
smart.
They're having the church in their parking lot. Everybody just stays in their car, and they'll broadcast it out. So it's like going to a drive-in theater, sort
Wow.
of.
Well, it's kind of nice, but you can't hear anybody in the car.
I guess they'll be broadcasting it loud, and people have the windows open. As long as the cars are 6 feet apart, then it's okay.
I guess you have to be creative. One thing,
Yes, you do. But
it,
they now, I was hearing from the news, I'm hearing that this is becoming very airborne, that you really have to wear a mask wherever you go now.
I'm not going many places.
No, but if you do go, wherever you go, you wear a mask and gloves.
Well, I mean, you do what's
I
important.
know I
Keep yourself
have to
healthy.
go for yeah, I'm not so worried about, I don't want to breathe in anything that's bad if I'm around any people. I have to go for my infusion on Wednesday, and they told me before I even get to the building, there's someone's going to take my temperature and give me a mask and gloves, because I can't go into the cancer facility without it.
Mm.
Anderson Cancer, Memorial. But something, I didn't go. Lenny went into Publix yesterday. He had on a mask and gloves, and you'd be surprised, out of 10 people, at least 6 or 7 had masks and gloves on.
Yeah, I think you're seeing it more and more now.
Where do you
Yeah,
get
oh
the
yeah.
mask?
Pardon
A
me?
lot of people making their own masks, Terry.
Oh,
Yeah, you just
I
take a scarf and wear a scarf.
They
I
say make sure it's
actually
cotton, supposedly.
I had actually
What did you
bought
say,
N95
AJ?
mask and didn't realize. I had actually bought N95 mask but didn't realize it when I was doing some sanding and some work on the house. So
Mhm.
I've actually got the actual N95 mask. I sent 5 to my son, and then I just happen to have medical mask also in the car in the house. So I'm a pack rat.
Well,
Never knew they'd
yesterday
come
or
in
the day
handy.
before, yeah, the day before yesterday, there's a thing called Quick Deals, a site, and you're able to get the KN95 masks. The one mask is $9.95. You can have it mailed to you. If you go on fastdeals.com, the KN95 masks, they're on sale. They're not on sale, but that's how much they are, $9.95 for one mask, and it has a filter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think that's on sale. I think that's scalping
No,
somebody.
not on
Yeah,
sale.
I'm gonna say
That's
that's
the
Not a
cheating.
price.
bad. That's not a bad price. I had bought 2 at a hardware store. They came with eye goggles and earplugs because they were for construction. But my daughter needed some masks for New York. She couldn't find any, so they had 2 in the store, and I bought them both and sent them to her.
Oh, that's a
And I
great
figured in my
idea.
house, yeah, I got masks that I used to use when I mowed the grass. So I don't know if they're N95, but they're hard filters that go over my face. So I have those.
That's very good. You really, any place you go that has any public, any humans at all,
Yeah.
you should have a mask on.
Yeah, I think we all know that we need to do what we have to do to take care of ourselves, our families, our loved ones, our friends.
You know
We're
what's really scary about this? They say that you could be a carrier and not get it yourself and give it to
Right.
somebody else.
Right,
Right.
exactly. That's what I said. This is an enemy that we can't see because we don't know. And I
But
think
how
that's what
could
makes
you
it
be,
so
you could be a
frightening.
carrier and
Yeah,
not have it and give it to somebody else? Wow.
You
Just
have
like with the chicken pox and the measles were the same way.
right. You're
People,
asymptomatic. You have no symptoms.
right.
And that's what that's what's making this tough because we don't know. I mean, you feel fine, you look fine, you're healthy,
Right,
you're going
right.
about your everyday activities, and but you could be a carrier. It's
Well,
very
unfortunately, what's scary though is we're going to end up, we're going to have to restart the economy soon,
yes.
because we can't go like this forever.
Yeah, we have
And
highest number of what people
Un-
applying for
Unemployment,
Yeah,
unemployment is the highest it's ever been because like people like Macy's, the big stores have to let all these people go.
well,
But some of
and
these stores
eventually we're
were,
going to have to take certain risk.
all right. Well, I appreciate all of you joining me today. I'm glad we had some lively discussion. I think a lot of discussions that are happening in the world right now are certainly revolving around the crisis that we are facing. And my wish for all of you, and again, thank you, is a Shabbat Shalom. I mean, we're all in place for Shabbats, and doesn't mean that we can't keep our rituals since we're focusing on that in this Torah portion. So I wish all of you to have a pleasant Shabbat. I look forward, what I'm really looking forward though, truly to all of you, honestly, is the day when I can see you all again in person at our beautiful synagogue with the
Amen.
rabbi.
Amen to that.
Right,
Amen.
leading our services and us back to Kelly leading us in singing and back
Oh,
to what we're used to and where we can actually have that joy together in the same room rather than on a computer screen.
Well, y'all have a
amen to
great
that.
day.
But I'll tell you, this is better than nothing.
It is. You're right, Tammy. I agree with you. All right,
Shabbat
so thank you,
shalom.
everybody. Next Friday, or I'm sorry, yes, next Friday, we will be doing it again with next week's Torah portion. I'll have a bit of a lesson to share with you, and then we'll open it up to discussion. Don't forget that the rabbi has his on Tuesdays, so if you want to tune in for the rabbi, you're going to be getting an email some point today, and then which will also give you some details about the virtual Seder that the rabbi is going to be hosting, so if you want to tune in for that and be ready. I think they're going to be sending out some form of Haggadah as well that you can download and print off. So we're going to get through it. We're going to have Passover. It's not going to be the same Passover we're used to, but we're going to have Passover. Nobody's going to keep us from that. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And I look forward. Hope y'all join me again next week. Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.